Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something that completely changed the internet, a moment in history that still dictates what you see when you search for, well, for anything. We're talking about the Google Panda update. All right, so let's just jump right in with a pretty shocking question. How is it that Google basically overnight demoted 12% of all English websites? I mean, think about that number, 12%. It sounds crazy, right? But back in February 2011, that's exactly what went down. So what on earth happened to cause a shakeup that big? Okay, to really get what Google did, we have to go back in time a bit and understand just how messy things were. Before 2011, the internet was, well, it was kind of like the Wild West. You'd search for something and the results were just packed with these junk websites built only to trick Google's algorithm, not to actually give you a good answer. You've probably experienced this, right? You're looking for some real advice, and what you get is a page that's just useless, full of fluff, maybe copied from somewhere else, and you just don't trust it. That was the era of the content farm. These were basically factories churning out tons and tons of low-quality articles. Their whole game was to rank on Google, not to actually be helpful. So you can imagine people were getting pretty fed up with this, and Google knew it. They had to do something drastic. They needed a way to clean house, to reward the sites that were actually creating good stuff and penalize the junk. And that's where Panda comes in. This was the algorithm that was about to change the entire game.
So what was Google Panda? Think of it as a brand new quality filter for the entire web. In fact, its nickname inside Google was the Farmer Update, which is a pretty clear shot at those content farms, right? The mission was crystal clear: reward the good sites and bury the bad ones.
And the impact was huge. We're talking 12% of all English search results were affected right away. Let that sink in for a second. More than 1 out of every 10 search results you saw just changed. This wasn't some tiny little adjustment. It was a digital earthquake.
Then here's the thing. Panda wasn't a one-and-done deal. Oh no. This was a long campaign. For the next 4 years or so, Google kept rolling out updates, almost 30 of them. They were constantly tweaking it, making it smarter, until eventually it wasn't even a separate thing anymore. It just became a core, fundamental part of how Google works.
So, you're probably wondering, what was on Panda's hit list? What exactly was it looking for to decide if a site was low quality or not? Let's get into the nitty-gritty and look at the red flags that would get a site in trouble. Okay, first up, it was all about quantity over quality. Panda was sniffing out sites with thin content, pages that have barely any real information on them. It was also hunting for duplicate content, basically stuff that was just copied and pasted from other places. And a big one was a lack of trust. You know that feeling you get on a sketchy website? Panda was designed to feel that too. And it didn't stop there. The algorithm was really focused on a bad user experience. You ever click a search result and the page is just plastered with ads, like more ads than actual content? Yep, Panda hated that. It also looked at sites that were basically bait and switch, promising one thing in the search results and delivering something else. It was smart enough to even look at user signals, like how many people were actually blocking a certain website. All right, so we know what Panda was targeting, but what if you were one of those sites that got hit? Or, more importantly, how do you avoid getting hit in the first place? This is where we get practical. So, how would you even know if you've been hit by something like this? Well, the number one sign is seeing your website traffic fall off a cliff. I'm not talking about a small dip, I mean a sudden, massive drop that just stays down. And if that drop lines up with a known Google updates, that's your big clue. But hold on, before you panic and blame Panda, you have to be a detective. It might not be a quality update. Could it be a tough new competitor? Or maybe it's just the slow season for your business. It could even be a totally different Google update, like Penguin, which targeted spammy links. The point is, you can't just assume. You've got to dig in and investigate. And if you do figure out it's a quality problem, there's no magic bullet to fix it. The only way out is through. You have to ditch the shortcuts and do the real work. That means getting rid of the low-quality stuff, beefing up your thin content to make it actually valuable, and really focusing on building a site that people can trust. Okay, so this all happened way back in 2011. Why does any of this matter today? Well, let's wrap this up by talking about Panda's legacy, because believe it or not, it's more important now than ever. Here's the key takeaway. Panda isn't a separate thing anymore. You can't sit around waiting for the next Panda update to hit. All of those quality principles we talked about, they're now baked right into Google's core algorithm. That means the quality check is happening all the time, every single day.
And honestly, this quote from the experts at Moz really just says it all. The goal isn't to trick an algorithm. The goal is to build something so good, so helpful, that it becomes a genuinely trusted resource. That's the whole lesson of Panda.
So that really brings us to the final critical question you have to ask yourself. Are you building your content for a human being, or are you just trying to please an algorithm? Because what the whole story of Panda teaches us is that if you focus on your audience first, you're doing it right. That's the real secret to winning at search then and now.